The diabolical superhero TV series The Boys is known to take things a bit too far with violence and strange perversions, but perhaps one of their most shocking character kinks can be found in the primary antagonist Homelander. The powerful Soup has a strange obsession with milk, and he is almost like an unreasonable man-child who can even be manipulated with a promise of milk. Some deep-rooted intimacy issues in him are triggered, and Homelander's strange fetish has been observed in all 4 seasons of the show, as well as the comic books. In this video, we'll dive deep into this strange obsession and bring you everything there is to know about this habit of his. But before we go into the explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. What are some of the examples of Homelander's milk obsession in the show? There are several moments in the show that highlight Homelander's strange psychotic habits, and his milk obsession is also evident from some of these moments. From the very beginning, he has been shown observing Madelyn Stillwell in her room from outside using his X-ray vision. He almost looks at her with a sense of longing, and she knows how to make the most out of his obsession over her. She makes him lay in her lap and cuddles him like a baby. She even assures him that he is a good boy when he obeys her when she needs him to follow orders, and there is a scene where she actually has him suck her fingers, mimicking breastfeeding. The second season of the show explores Homelander's fetish further, and he actually drinks Madelyn Stillwell's breast milk. Later, he ends up killing her after learning that her entire maternal act towards him was a lie. In Season 3, Homelander can be seen milking a cow and giving almost orgasmic expressions during the act. He clearly gets pleasure from milking, and it is a noticeable feature among his disturbing acts and mental breakdown during the season. Again, in the ongoing Season 4, we have seen how Firecracker is manipulating him ever since she found a way to lactate using drugs and is providing the Soup with his favorite beverage. She wields a certain power over him because of this and even gets him to fire Sister Sage, who used to be his primary strategist. Is his twisted childhood a reason behind his obsession? While we discuss how psychotic and unpredictable Homelander is, we often forget to consider how he has been raised during his childhood. His early life is far from normal, and it is not surprising that his social skills are well below par. Unlike most of the other Soups who have been raised in proper homes after being administered Compound V, Homelander has been raised in the laboratory. He never had a motherly figure in his life, and his childhood was spent in all the experiments conducted by the scientists to determine the true extent of his superpowers. Homelander had to deal with solitude at an age when kids are hungry for love and attention, and since he never got any, his obsession grew into its present-day state. The real obsession of Homelander is not his breast milk fascination, but the hint of motherly intimacy towards him. Even when Madelyn Stillwell did not breastfeed him, she made use of her motherly behavior to lure him into doing her bidding. Whenever Homelander showed signs of doing things that weren't best suited to Vought's interests, she stepped in and seemed to know exactly how to manipulate him. Since Homelander never received the love of a parent, any such form of intimacy weakens him considerably and makes him hungry for more. Does his milk obsession make him jealous of Madelyn's baby? It is quite natural for siblings to be jealous of each other when they're very young. This is because both are hungry for attention, and one of them gets irked when the other one is receiving the love and attention. However, such behavior is not normal when it comes to adults. This makes Homelander's maddening jealousy over Madelyn's baby quite unnatural. He is disgruntled and in agony when Madelyn prioritizes her baby over him, and we can even see him making snide remarks on her motherhood as a coping mechanism. He watches her pump her breast milk into bottles for her baby, and he is clearly jealous when the baby gets to drink all of that instead of him. We believe that it is not his milk obsession that makes him jealous of the baby, but it is simply his sibling behavior that causes all the trouble. In his mind, Homelander has never matured, and the baby is simply his competition, even though he is decades younger than the Soup. Is milk a coping mechanism to feel for his missing mother? Growing up without a mom is hard enough, but do imagine growing up in absolute solitude, confined within the walls of a laboratory. It is not surprising that Homelander has strange and extreme behavioral patterns because there was no one to teach him the difference between right and wrong, ethics and corruption. He has grown up missing a motherly figure, but he has never really gotten over it. Even now, he subconsciously seeks out a similar personality in his life, and be it Madelyn Stillwell or Firecracker, anyone who's been able to provide him the motherly love has successfully controlled him to some extent. This brings us to the proposition that his love for milk is almost symbolic and doesn't have to do anything with milk per se. It is simply his way of filling out for his missing mom. Every time he is near milk resources or breastfeeding from the likes of Firecracker, he lives the life he never got to experience. The act is not exactly sexual in nature for him, but at the same time there is a hint of eroticism in his behavior as well. For instance, until Firecracker revealed that she has breast milk, he wasn't even attracted to her. But immediately after Homelander can be seen warming up to her. Also, it is worth noting that the person here is not important, it's simply the act of nurturing him. This is the reason why Homelander could easily discard Madelyn and replace her with Doppelganger to suit his needs. Does Homelander have an Idfus Complex? The answer to this question is quite complicated, and we cannot easily formulate a simple outcome. Homelander does have sexual feelings to a degree of those of nature with him in a motherly love setup. From Madelyn Stillwell to Firecracker to Stormfront, anyone who has shown him motherly affection has won over his approval, but more importantly, he is attracted to them to a certain level. That being said, he doesn't have direct physical intimacy with any of them. It is more like Homelander is confused about what he really wants from these women, a partner or a mom, and his final behavior is a mixture between the two. This is why Homelander preferred having milk from baby bottles and not from a glass or a cup, because this signified him getting to be a baby, as in a normal upbringing. There were a few moments when Stormfront seduced him and Firecracker got him to do her bidding, but none of them were sexual intercourse. Overall, it can be said that Homelander deals with Idfus Complex to some extent, but it is not too direct, and he has never recovered from the years of childhood trauma inflicted on him by Vought. Did Vought purposely introduce Homelander's milk obsession? Everyone who is familiar with the functioning of Vought is well aware of how the organization can manipulate things to their advantage. A few events in Season 4 point to the fact that the soup managing company had planned it very well how they were going to control someone like Homelander from the time he was only a child. After facing a disturbing existential crisis, Homelander heads out to the facility where he was raised and punishes the scientists responsible for torturing him and experimenting on him. Later, the laboratory chief, Barbara, reveals during a private conversation with Homelander that Vought did a lot more to him than just the physical experiments. They made sure that Homelander could be manipulated even into his childhood and hired the best psychologists from across the world to come up with a few smart tactics. It is Vought that introduced the hunger for love and affection in Homelander, and his obsession with intimacy is simply reflected in his obsession with milk. If he is provided with this form of intimacy, he is easily swayed to obey the people concerned, and if it is taken away from him, he can go to any extent to show his displeasure. Thus, it is safe to say that his entire obsession with milk is simply a Vought tool to control the extremely powerful Homelander who cannot be contained by normal means. How does his milk obsession overpower his pride? Homelander can be many things, but he never really compromises on his pride and status. This is evident from some of his actions that are taken even after knowing their negative impact, just because his pride compels him to do so. Thus, it is not surprising to wonder how he allows himself to be consumed by this obsession with milk and ignore his love for his supremacy. The likes of Firecracker or Madelyn Stillwell have clearly been the dominant characters in his life, but his pride never took a hit because he never realized the same. Basically, his obsession doesn't really outweigh his pride and sense of supremacy, but it simply takes his mind away from the same. When he obeys the orders of such people, he doesn't think of it as being secondary to them and simply obliges, because he knows no other way. The Vought strategy to make him a sucker for motherly love has worked wonders, and the current psychotic version of Homelander is still easily manipulated in this pretext. Can Homelander control his milk obsession? From all that we've discussed so far in the video, it is quite obvious that Homelander is not in control of his emotions or urges when it comes to his unending search for motherly love. If he wasn't a twisted soup who kills people for fun, one would almost feel sorry for his condition and how he has been modified to be this way. If he could help his obsession over milk or his hunger for attention, he would have become a much better and more powerful version of himself. But it is not to be, and this remains a chink in his armor that he cannot resolve on his own. Marvelous verdict. This could be the Homelander's fatal obsession. We're talking about a soup who has no apparent weaknesses, the leader of the Seven and the prized product of Vought has no real threat unless the boys come up with a virus that is powerful enough to incapacitate him. However, his milk obsession is a noticeable weakness that he has been used against his time and time again. Can this also bring about his downfall when the time comes? Someone like Firecracker can easily change allegiances if she is convinced that Homelander will bring about humanity's doom if left to work on his own. She can then manipulate and lure the Twisted Soup away from the hostility and have him immobilized when the time is right. So far, Homelander's fascination with milk has only been a strange habit, but it can be a weakness that could potentially bring about his downfall as well. Do let us know in the comments below what you think of Homelander's strange habits and behavioral patterns, and also tell us if you think that he can be overpowered at some point because of his particular weakness in him. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.